Why hello there, I'm fantasy author Dianna Gunn, and today I'm here to share how depression influences the stories that I tell. This topic was actually suggested to me by somebody on Twitter last week. Unfortunately, I didn't save the name of the person who suggested the topic, so I have no idea who they are, but the idea has been bouncing around in my head for days, and I simply had to make it the subject of this week's video. So whoever you are, thank you. If you're watching, please do let me know that it was you in the comments section below so that I can give credit where credit is due. The most obvious way that depression influences the stories I tell is that a lot of the characters I write about have depression themselves. In Moonshadow's Guardian, Riana's depression is a major story element. It's something that she has to face over and over again along with her PTSD. And there are hints that several of the other characters have some level of depression or PTSD or have struggled with these issues in the past. The insidious thing about these representations is that most of these characters have depression simply because they grew up in the world they grew up in the circumstances they grew up in. Pain is an inextricable part of life in Moonshadow and in the world of Omicare. Part of that is because I want to explore the pain that we have in our own real world in fiction. I think that's one of the most powerful uses for fiction. But another part of that is because as a person who struggles with depression and the anxiety created by systematic poverty and oppression, I honestly can't imagine a world where pain isn't part of life, where suffering isn't just another part of being human. My depression also influences how I write characters who don't have depression. There are some happy and healthy characters in Moonshadow's Guardian, but there are two important things to keep in mind about these characters. The first is that they are minor characters. Because, to be quite honest, I can't imagine what it's like to go your entire life without a serious bout of depression. I have no idea what that would be like. I cannot imagine what it's like to live in the head of someone who has always been mentally stable and healthy. Even though I've come a long way in my journey and I've had extended periods of stability and even happiness and joy, I still can't understand what it's like to have that as your default setting without having to work for it. Someday I hope I'll be able to write from the viewpoint of a naturally optimistic character, but right now, that just isn't in my soul. The second thing to keep in mind about characters who are happy and healthy in Moonshadow's Guardian is that the ones who do have more than a couple of lines have actually already been through a journey of mental illness and recovered, and that's why they're happy now. These characters work for me because I understand what a healing journey is, and so I can write about them and I can understand them, and I feel like, in a weird way that will probably only make sense if your characters have lived in your head as long as mine have, they are also able to understand me because we have that mutual basis of understanding. We mutually understand depression and trauma, and therefore I find it easier to work with these characters in my story. The most noticeable impact my depression has on my writing is on my character development, but it also has an impact on the way I build my worlds, the types of magic I create, and even what my drafts look like. I write about necromancy and blood magic because of my morbid fascination with death and self-harm. These are things I've struggled with extensively in my depression journey and in my journey with PTSD after my father's death. The important thing to note is that I didn't consciously decide to do any of these things. I didn't decide to write about depressed characters. I didn't choose to explore necromancy because I was pining for my dead father. I didn't consciously choose to make blood magic an important part of the Moonshadow books because when I wrote the first one originally, I was still actively in my recovery journey. These things seeped into my story because they were my reality, because to some extent they are my reality and they are part of who I am. When I realized I had landed on these themes and I realized the symbolism in my stories, I chose to lean into it because I believe there is power in exploring our pain through fiction. I believe fiction is a safe space for us to do exactly that. But I didn't set out to write books about these things. The truth is, if you live with depression or another mental illness for long enough, it's going to have a noticeable impact on your writing. It may not make your stories bad, it may not decrease the quality of your work, but it will change the content of your work. It will change the soul of your work. Because at its heart, writing is an expression of the mind. And if the mind is ill, it will show through in your work. Here I am having a sappy emotional moment and my cat fucking knocks the tripod. Really, bro? Really? Can you tell I'm talking about sad things and you just want to come here and cheer me up or something? Because that is really the only excuse for you walking so casually across my desk. Hi. You do love interrupting Mummy film, don't you? Yeah, you do love it. You're the best interruption ever, though. Oh. No, not back onto my desk. What is wrong with you? Okay, well, that was intense. I actually went way off script in this video. I started talking and things just came out. Some of the things that I told you guys about, I hadn't even realized about my own work. So I guess this video idea was even better than I thought it was. If you've also noticed ways that depression has influenced your writing, or if you want to suggest a new video topic for me to do, or you just really enjoyed this video, please do let me know in the comments section below. I really appreciate hearing from you. And of course, if you want to learn more about staying creative in the face of mental illness, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I am fantasy author Dianna Gunn, and I will see you next Friday.